Bevan Paul, CEO of Parramatta Lease Club. Welcome to Western Sydney Leadership Dialogue's Western Sydney Unfiltered.
Thanks, Adam.
How are you?
Good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Good. You must be pretty upbeat. The Eels are undefeated. The Lease Club's back in operation, although under some new restrictions, but you must be feeling a lot better than you were a couple of months ago.
Yes, indeed. A couple of months ago we were facing, 6 months of the apocalypse and, the end of humanity as we knew it. And we geared up for, a long winter, 6-month winter of no revenue. And since then, the things have improved and we're open again and trading pretty well, actually. Restrictions have been challenging, but I think they've been reasonable measures and well thought out. I'm looking forward to them being relaxed a bit further, though. But no, we're back in trading.
Yeah. A lot's been spoken about the impact of COVID on the sort of tourism, the visitor economy. How bad has it been, and what are you seeing now from your members and visitors that are returning?
They're not returning as that quickly. I think there's a lot of people that are very hesitant still about coming out. People are trying to get back to normal, but we're not there yet. I'd say we've made a giant step towards that, but we're just not there yet. We have had some reasonable numbers with regards to people attending our club and our other club at Vikings in Dundas. But the numbers are nowhere near what they normally are. There's still a lot of, our car park's not as full as we'd like because there's just not as many people around. I think the working from home thing has certainly impacted attendance at the club, and certainly clubs close to CBDs will probably see that too. I think that people are starting to come back. I think the uncertainty as well of how does it work? How do I get in? Do I have to give out all my details and to come in? That sort of can sometimes, people will say, well, I'll wait till it's back to normal again. So I think those things are what's going through their mind at the moment based on my observations.
Yeah. A lot of industries have spoken about how this pandemic will forever change the way they operate. Are you confident of a return to business as usual, or do you expect there'll be some changes longer term?
I think that people are certainly much more health conscious, and safety conscious with regards to, how you can pick up and transmit diseases. So I think the awareness that we all practice in flu season will be magnified as a result of COVID-19. So I think we'll just be much more conscious of that, and we'll be conscious of it all year round, not just during winter. That's what I think will happen. I think some design differences will emerge with regards to seating and with regards to service as well in the hospitality industry. I think that there will be. I think the short answer is yes, we will recover back to normal. How long it will take, I think it'll be a year or two to get there. And I think just along the way, we'll just be very health and safety conscious. People, things like, people will pay much more attention to their cleaning regimes, both personal and their commercial ones. So as visitors pay attention to what they touch and how they behave and consume at whatever venue and how those venues look after them.
Prior to COVID, you guys had some big plans around the development of a new lifestyle, leisure, entertainment precinct. Has COVID changed that at all? Are those plans still on track? Do you expect them to still, remain, where they are? And do you think that, the economic or social changes are going to have a bigger impact on usage around that precinct?
I think I think everybody paused for a second whilst the COVID-19 impact was being assessed, and I don't think the COVID-19 impact has been fully digested in either the Australian economy and certainly not the global economy. So, and I think when you're talking about developments of a large scale, the source of those funds is a lot of places around the world. So I think people would be a bit cautious about where their money goes for a little while. I think it will. The short answer is yes, we are still on track and still have the same plans as we did. We've just got to evaluate them a little bit more carefully, I suppose, with regards to risk. I think it's a good lesson too, COVID-19, of you can't always bank on rainy days. And it's been well publicised about how some businesses have been running on cash flow with nothing for a rainy day. I think that'll change. I think people will be planning a lot more, doing a lot more contingency planning, I should say. Being able to access, the Blues Club was in a pretty good financial position, not necessarily with cash, but we weren't very highly geared. So we were able to access new facilities to help us. So I think that'll certainly change. But I think risk assessment or evaluation of projects will certainly change. There'll be people will factor in another crisis.
On the project or building front, construction and development have been two sectors that the government's identified as being two big ones that they're going to rely upon to get us out of this economic hole. Clubs, in Western Sydney especially, is referred to as the club capital of Australia, obviously has an economic and a social function. What role do you think that the clubs can play in the region's economic recovery? And do you think that the tourism, the visitation sector as a whole has received the support that it requires to move to that next phase?
I think the most immediate way that clubs could help is through employment, and some discussion with the government on how clubs could bring some people back. Clubs employ thousands of people across the state, and the big clubs employ, we're not the biggest one, and we have a few hundred people here. But then you look at other clubs that have got several hundred, got twice as many staff as we do. We roster based on what we can afford to do, but with some assistance from government. And I don't mean JobKeeper in someone pays their entire wage, but some consideration for clubs bringing people on, and training as well. Clubs, we've got a lot of hospitality facilities here, and training people is something we could assist with too. So I think it would be, not that I'm a very qualified government policymaker, but I think a transition from JobKeeper would be cooperation with clubs or an industry to some extent. In that, look, you guys employ this many people. Could you put on 10 more? And we'll revisit your club gaming duty or payroll tax, and things like. And it wouldn't be a 1-for-1 ratio of that kind of subsidy like the JobKeeper level, because that's too expensive and obviously not sustainable. But clubs would be eager to collaborate in that space, and eager to look at trainees, and eager to look at people that have. We recently looked at our casual workforce, which has been, we haven't got enough work for them yet, but we're bringing them back because we've invested about $250,000 worth of training in them. So therefore, we're starting to bring them back with a view to, because we'll need them in the future. We could do that to a greater extent with some government collaboration.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that the clubs sector as a whole has a role to play when it comes to particularly in hospitality training. I think it's an untapped opportunity there. Bevan, before we wrap up, we typically ask our guests of Unfiltered to talk about their personal experience dealing with COVID. And apart from probably a lot of time spent watching the Eels win the last couple of weeks, what have you been doing to get yourself through this difficult time?
Well, I'm already quite an accomplished cook, but I took my skills to a new level during COVID-19. I also think I watched everything on Netflix, and luckily I had purchased some exercise equipment as well to offset my cooking experiments.
So we can expect some new forms of chicken schnitty.
Well, I had weekly Zooms with the Lease Club staff, so I invited them all to attend, and I'd tell them, look, this is the latest news, and this is what we're doing, etc., etc. But then we'd had a segment on Netflix, what Bevan's watching on Netflix, and I gave them my tips, and we talked about that, and then we talked about what Bevan was cooking that day. I think mushroom and cauliflower soup, was very keto friendly on the menu that day.
Sounds pretty healthy too.
Yeah, it was, mate. So no, it was good. But I think actually one other point too, Adam. Sorry, before we wrap it up, but another area that I'm talking about now or thinking about now is our support of community groups. So they rely on club grants funding, and there's a lot of them that rely upon it. With a reduction in gaming revenue, clubs will spend less in that sector. So we're contemplating contacting our partners and seeing what they need, because a lot of them probably haven't asked or might have even folded. So we intend reaching out, and I hope that other parts of the industry do the same thing.
Yeah, it's a massive role you guys play in terms of that community grant and the support you provide to a lot of those local groups. And I know that off the back of the bushfires, a lot of those groups were on hard times, and I think the more we can do to support the club sector, we know that that's going to trickle down to other areas of the community. So hopefully everyone can get out and enjoy a beer and a schnitty in the coming weeks once restrictions lift even further.
Indeed, and we'll be happy to welcome them.
Absolutely. Bevan, Paul, thank you for your time this morning, mate. Best of luck and go the Eels.
Thanks, Adam.